So what we have on this side of the screen is just a battery monitoring tool, and it says that my computer is charging, which is correct, and we'll get back to that later. What we have on this side of the screen is just we're gonna start my auto CPU freak tool, whatever you want to call it. So if I run it, I'm going to see a list of options. It says automatic CPU speed and power optimizer for Linux, which is true. And it comes in several modes, but we'll go through them later. So if we look at the first one, monitor, it says monitor and suggest CPU optimization. So what happens if I run that? So we see system information. Basically, we see the Linux distribution we're using, Linux kernel version, CPU driver, architecture, processor, number of cores, maximum CPU frequency. That's what it can go up to, and this is what the frequency is for each core right now, and temperature for each core. And it says battery is charging, which is correct, and what it corresponds to what we saw here. And it's suggesting to use performance governor, and that's what it's currently using. We also see the total CPU usage and system load, and currently it says turbo boost is on, and that's what it suggests to do. So, okay, that's great. But what happens, and to get you to the problem that I have with Linux CPU frequency scaling right now, is that if I change states, for example, I'm going to pull the power out of my laptop. And if I do that, if we look here, it's going to say that it's discharging right now. And basically, if I look here, that's also what my tool is going to say. And it's also already going to suggest to use power save governor instead of performance. And because of the load, which we see here, it's going to say suggesting to set turbo boost off, and it's still currently on. And maximum CPU frequency, it's maximum. And basically, this is what the cores are running at. So basically, you will lose a lot of power, and you need to preserve it. So that's my major problem. And there's a lot of tools which allow you to do the CPU frequency scaling, but you have to tweak it. And I just want to use the computer instead of keep constantly tweaking it. You can also use tools like TLP, but they also come with their set of problems, and something I've been using for a number of years. So if I didn't just make the monitoring tool, let's see what else is there. So basically, what monitor did is it monitors the system and makes suggestions. And right now, live is the next mode, which says monitor and make suggested CPU optimizations. So let's see what it does. So if I run it, we get the same information, and immediately we see it setting to use power save. And it, because the load is optimal based on this, it set the turbo boost off, which is good, and maximum CPU frequency is immediately lowered, and frequency for each core is also a lot lower, which will basically allow me to preserve battery life instead of computer just running at its maximum potential, maximum speed and power. So that's great, and what so you can go even lower, of course, because basically tool doesn't do anything except change the power states, the governors and CPU scaling. It still lets the Linux kernel do the heavy lifting. So let's say if I just stress the CPU a little bit, what's going to happen? And so immediately we should see that CPU is 100, and it says turbo boost is on now because it detected needs more power. And same thing is with the CPU frequency. So I'm going to stop it, and switches and it starts using what it needs to use, which is great. And it's still in power save, of course. And once the load is down, it will turn the turbo boost off. And same thing is with the frequency. And well, I think in maybe next iteration or next two iterations, we'll see it go down to uh, turbo boost off. And I'll wait actually for this and see it's off. and that's exactly what we wanted. And maximum frequency is also down. So that's great. But basically, whatever you run in live mode, all the changes that it does, once you reboot the computer, they're going to go back to their defaults. So that's why install option is there, which is going to install the daemon for automatic CPU optimizations. So let's install it. Um, uh, if I could just spell that correctly. And yeah, basically turns Bluetooth off on boot. You can still run it just to preserve battery. And it deploys, well, you can read what it does. It's also a system D service. That's how it runs. You can read this later on your own. But what's important is that this part where it says it's installed and running. So because we don't see anything, what's happening, and but it's running in the background. So let's see the log, and if I just extend this a little bit, basically we see that it's running, and we see the live log of what it's doing. So let's also power it back in, and we'll see immediately that battery is charging now, and yeah, maximum frequency should also now change. Yep, and yeah, great. So that's exactly what it does. So I don't need to do any tweaking. It just does everything for me, and I can just use the computer. So this was my big problem, and that's why I decided to make this tool and make it widely accessible for anybody to use. And yeah, download it and enjoy it. And please let me know if you have any questions.